To today's daily word. We have remarkably reached the end of another week, and I'm glad you could join me for our time together continually. And another hot, humid day today. So I hope you're staying cool wherever you are. Thanks for joining me, for carving out time to be with me as always, as we share in this journey together through the daily word and what it means for us and how we then apply it to our lives. So a reminder that Sunday morning we'll gather for worship at 10:15. We're going to hear the story of when Moses was placed in the basket and sent up the river because of Pharaoh's edict to kill all the male children. We're going to hear about that story of defiance from the women in this story. But then we're going to talk about what it might be for us to live defiant lives. And if you're curious about that, show up on Sunday morning. We'll talk about what that means for us to live defiant lives. And it's a positive, good thing. But you might want to join us as we learn about that together. So this morning, our daily word is number 773. And I've chosen this one verse from Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. This letter from Paul to the church in Galatia. And it's these interesting words that are important for us. And he says this: "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge in the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." I've been noticing a lot, even this morning when I was at breakfast. People are wearing shirts, t-shirts, and this morning was a sweatshirt. Why this woman had a sweatshirt on, I'll never know. That say the words freedom, the word freedom across the shirt. And of course it's adorned with stars and stripes and whatever else, but the word freedom. Now I know there's lots of banter about that these days in the political sense, about what freedom means and that we have freedom of speech and freedom of whatever. But I wondered, when I look at all of these shirts, people wear it across their chest, and what our idea of freedom is and what we do with the freedom that we have. Paul writes these important words. He says, yeah, brothers and sisters, you were called to be free, but don't use that freedom to indulge in the flesh, but rather to serve one another humbly in love. So what's freedom? It's basically the freedom is the ability to make choices. People in captivity don't have that freedom. We have the freedom, the ability to make choices. So what are our choices? Paul says our choices are simply two things. He says one of them is to indulge in the flesh. And that means only care about our own freedom. That means to only care about our own ideas. That means to only care about what we care about. And then just as we talked about the other day, just be like Pac-Man, just grab everything we can and keep it to ourselves. We can choose that kind of freedom, or because we have freedom, we can choose to humbly love others. We can walk in the Spirit, or we can walk in the flesh. But for Paul, there really is no third option offered here. And I agree with him. So Galatians goes on to tell us that, the consequences of our decisions, indulge in the flesh or love one another humbly, the consequences of those decisions, we reap what we sow. If we indulge in the flesh, we reap relationships. Now hear this, we reap relationships characterized by biting and devouring, turmoil, division, bitterness, separation. Does any of that sound familiar to you? It does to me. And that's characterized by lots of folks in our culture. Maybe that's even what when we wear that on our t-shirt, freedom, what people are thinking about. I'm free, I can do what and say whatever I want. On the other hand, if we sow to the Spirit and serve one another in love, Paul says to us, the entire law is then fulfilled. That then means harmony, togetherness, teamwork, unity. Jesus sets us free from this idea of dwelling in the flesh, but we're still free to go under its power. Paul urges us to recognize our freedom and then to make the right choice, to choose love rather than strife, to choose love rather than division or bitterness or separation or turmoil. And that begins by humbly serving others. People ask me often, Jim, why did you do that? Why did you offer that person love or money or gas, or why did you sit down with that person? Why did you say yes to doing this particular thing that you probably could have said no to? And sometimes I just say yes because that's who I am. But on the other side of the coin, I think for me, I want to take seriously this idea to not indulge in the flesh, but to serve one another humbly in love. And that's what we're called to serve one another humbly in love. And boy, if we can do that, if we can just take one opportunity, and if we can't take every opportunity, one opportunity in life, today, tomorrow, next week, in the midst of all of this, where we have a choice, if we take just one and serve humbly in love, we'll make a difference. Now, I know, you've heard me say this, but, I'm accused of being naive, of being, having rose-colored glasses. I don't think I'm either. I think it's what we want. We really do want to serve each other humbly in love. We really do. But it's easier to get caught up in the turmoil and biting and devouring and division and bitterness and separation. It seems like once we get caught up in that, it stirs our emotions and then we can't get out of it. I want you and me together, I want personally to serve humbly in love. And that's what we are called to. So that's our word for today as we end this week together. As always, thanks for joining me, being a part of our journey together. Just remember of God's love that surrounds you and my love for you. I'll see you Sunday morning at 10:15 as we gather for worship. And then here again Monday morning at 10 a.m. Have a great day and a great weekend, my friends.